At this point, you're taking advantage of your fans, and you've taken advantage of me, and I'm gonna be honest, Cinny, I don't want to live with you anymore. She would often me like in the or like on my and like make jokes about me, and like I told her not to do this, and I said no multiple times.
Synnibear did not fall in one day. Long before the call-out videos, the leaked messages, and the documents that turned the internet against her, she was simply another young artist building a name for herself online. Her work brought attention, and for a while it looked like she was creating the kind of career many people wanted. But somewhere along the way, the story changed.
It was a 5-minute conversation, and my wonderful best friend who saved my life and made me feel whole turned into a disgusting creep.
What started as friendship and community slowly became something darker, messier, and far harder to explain away.
It's okay.
I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to do
You
better.
can't come back from this.
At the center of that collapse was Birdie, someone who was once close enough to witness things from the inside, and later became one of the loudest voices exposing what she says really happened.
I meant what I said when I stated I wanted to change and didn't want to hurt anyone ever again.
And once those claims came out, the conversation became about boundaries and the damage that can happen when warning signs are ignored for too long. So how did a rising artist end up here? And how much of this downfall was visible long before everything finally fell apart? There's no way to talk about Synnibear without bringing Birdie into the conversation. Birdie, often referred to as Jack, stands as Synnibear's friend, her nightmare, and ultimately the agent of her downfall. Their journey had been one filled with so much pain and controversy that it would almost, if not completely, ruin both their careers, leaving Birdie with nothing and no one to turn to. Where did it all go wrong? To understand that, we have to go back to the very beginning. Synnibear, whose real name is Cynthia Totsky, is currently a 23-year-old woman born in Springfield, Missouri. From an early age, she showed an interest in art, shaped in part by her Christian upbringing. She grew up in a generally stable but somewhat controlling household, and her father and younger brother had ADHD, while Synnibear herself is autistic. She also reported the early life trauma, including being traumatized by adults. Her creative interests led her to video games and animation, and she joined YouTube and DeviantArt in 2014, becoming active around 2015. She initially focused on content for young audiences, particularly the My Little Pony series, which inspired her first online alias, Scooter. She developed skills in stop motion, digital art, speed paints, and eventually full animation, using early tools such as MS Paint and YouTube's editor. She continued posting consistently and began gaining traction, but her big break came in 2017 with a My Little Pony animation video that went on to receive more than 22 million views. But then, as you all know, with fame comes controversy, and this started right after her big break in 2017. Synnibear posted a video accusing a creator called Sashley of tracing her work, but she claimed she had brought it up to her before posting the video.
I have an entire script of what I wanted to say about Sashley, and instead of using that one, I brought up the points with Sashley herself on Discord, and I said, hey, so I was gonna make a video about why you're bad, but I kinda sorta don't want to make you out to be a bad person, so I'm gonna give you the points from my script and give you a chance to tell me what you think. And she was like,
one of the main allegations Synnibear made against Sashley was that she was fond of copying other people's art, and had no originality in her work.
Inspired in quotations because she has gone from taking little things and rolling with them to making carbon copies of other people's animations. Not even generic memes, just everything.
Synnibear claimed that Sashley used the idea of being inspired by other people's work as an excuse to be lazy and ride on the success of other artists' unique creations. To support her point, Synnibear shared one of Sashley's tweets which stated, "I was a ripoff of a lot of people and got inspired too much." But what Synnibear found particularly amusing was the fact that Sashley's fans came after her once they noticed that Sashley's artwork closely resembled hers, going as far as accusing Synnibear herself of copying Sashley. What Sashley's fans did not realize was that the situation appeared to be the other way around. Synnibear went on to share a screenshot showing the date she posted the video she had been accused over, and the date Sashley uploaded hers, presenting it as evidence that she had created and then posted that style of art first. In all fairness, Sashley did give credit to Synnibear in the video description, but most people do not read descriptions, which is why many made that assumption in the first place. And for those who did read it and were aware that the original idea came from Synnibear, some still claim they preferred Sashley's version, a reaction that clearly frustrated Synnibear. Someone copied you, but I like the person who copied you better. Here is Sashley's arts, placed side by side with Synnibear's for reference. You can clearly see that the facial structure, the eyes, and even the model appear nearly identical. Synnibear also raised concerns about the inconsistency of Sashley's work, arguing that it lacked a stable, recognizable style, and never felt cohesive or truly brand-like in its presentation.
It's not bad if you change your character maybe once in a blue moon. Changing it every month or so, it makes your character seem inconsistent and not thought out. Like you're just adding things as you go because you can. For example, things like this robot arm, or these blue wings, or this jelly hair, or this upside down hard eye.
On top of that, Synnibear criticized what she described as Sashley's poor quality content, arguing that she rushed out animations for her fans without giving enough attention to detail or maintaining a consistent standard of quality.
Sashley gave her character wings in her first animations, and they sometimes show up in her new ones, but they're not always there. She's also given her character fingerless gloves that disappear between scenes, fingers that sometimes look like fingers.
While many of the allegations against Sashley were considered valid by some observers, Sashley herself did not make a major issue out of them, nor did she appear to take the criticism conventionally, instead maintaining that she remained popular despite what others described as the wacky or inconsistent nature of her videos. Synnibear was seen by some as being in the right for calling Sashley out, but what ultimately made people turn their backs on Synnibear regarding this issue was the fact that she left a comment on the video, instructing her fans to go and harass Sashley for what she had done. "This one girl stole almost all of my work and claimed it as hers. I'm giving you the link to her channel so you can go yell at her." Synnibear also claimed that creators like Birdie had been copied as well, but this move did not sit well with many people, and ultimately reflected poorly on Synnibear. It began to affect the way she was perceived online, with several creators openly criticizing her for it, while others went as far as making videos defending Sashley, including a creator named Ponder.
The original drama against Sashley was over the complaint that she was unoriginal, particularly that she took inspiration in her animation memes from other people.
Ponder's main point was that the entire animation meme community at the time was largely built on adapting and reworking existing art to create new content, and while Sashley may have taken that approach a bit too far in some cases, Ponder argued that it still did not justify the level of backlash she was receiving over it.
If you don't know what an animation meme is, it's an animated story or sequence that is often copied and changed depending on the animator making it. The purpose is basically to create a series of related sequences that can be easily distinguished between animators based on their style.
Ponder's defense centered on the idea that at the time when the backlash against Sashley was at its peak, she was either too young or perhaps too inexperienced as an artist to fully understand what was best for her content and creative direction.
Sashley was one such animator, not changing enough about her memes to make them distinctive, and therein making people angry, I guess. I should point out that at the time one of the memes she copied was brought up, that being the Trendsetter meme, originally by Scootaloo Loves Sans. She was 11.
Ponder also referred to the criticism coming from Synnibear, addressing her by her old YouTube channel name, Scootaloo Loves Sans, to emphasize her earlier presence within the community. So given that she was that young, Ponder felt it was unfair for older creators to be so harsh on Sashley for doing something similar to what they themselves did, even if she executed it in a more sloppy way.
Basically, I'm saying that the original complaint against Sashley that she was unoriginal is stupid, and anybody who perpetuated this and told Sashley it was bad for her to copy animation memes in a community centered around copying animation memes should feel bad for participating in the public discouraging of an 11-year-old trying to mimic the works of creators she loves, especially if you knew of her age at the time.
Ponder went on to say that Synnibear could have at least tried to guide Sashley on how to improve her animation memes, or simply left her alone, considering that she was still too young to fully process the situation in a mature way.
It would be far more beneficial to explain to her the difference and to help teach her how to spot those differences. I don't know if there's a hashtag or something that animation memers use when it's not okay to copy an animation, but that might be more useful than just expecting kids to know the difference automatically.
Although most of what Ponder said made a lot of sense, she also made a statement that did not sit well with many people, even if it was said in the process of defending Sashley. At one point, someone accused Sashley of joining an 18+ server and criticized her by saying, "Exposing to 18+ servers can get the creators in deep trouble. Her voluntarily joining these servers can do such a thing." Ponder disagreed with the idea that a young person joining such pages should be blamed if they end up exposing themselves to explicit content posted there, suggesting that the responsibility may not rest entirely on the individual in that situation.
If anything is sent to her by somebody who is fully aware of her age, then that responsibility falls on the person sending the image, not Sashley for managing to get herself into the server.
While being a kid, most children do have a basic understanding of right and wrong for the most part, but to suggest that a teenager has absolutely no reason to be cautioned or warned about joining an adult page is not entirely accurate. At the same time, it is also the responsibility of the adults in such spaces to act appropriately once they are aware of Sashley's age and remove her from that environment. With the call out from Ponder,
Thanks for the easy compilation, Scootaloo.
Synnibear later released part 2 of her video, directly addressing the response from Ponder. At the very least, from the beginning of that video, Synnibear openly admitted that her earlier video had not been handled well.
When she did, I kind of realized how bad it was. I don't really like my video, and I don't agree with a lot of the stuff I said in that video anymore.
Synnibear claimed that despite sending a message to Sashley about her intention to make the video, Sashley was not given the full script but only a few points, meaning she did not fully know what Synnibear was going to focus on, or how the situation would be presented.
I thought I was being fair by giving Sashley the points and giving her a chance to argue me, but I gave her the bullet points and not like the full thing that I was going to use against her. So she didn't really have like proper argument material. So while at the time I thought I was being fair, now I don't think that was a good idea.
Synnibear also admitted that part of her motivation was to get back at Sashley for something she had done to her, and that this played a role in why she chose to make the video. This meant that before that incident, Synnibear may not have had an issue with Sashley's art style.
Sashley did something that made me kinda angry, so I recorded this video, still angry, and the whole time I just had this like super passive-aggressive tone like the entire video.
Synnibear made this video to reduce the amount of backlash she was getting from the initial video, but it didn't make this better for her, and what destroyed Synnibear was finally her encounter with Birdie. In late 2024, Birdie, also known as Sophia Harrington or Jack, posted a video on her popular YouTube channel under the title, "My roommate 14-year-old, I need help." This drew attention across the online community. From the very beginning of the video, Birdie appeared to start on the wrong foot by claiming,
Just trying to, like, spill my guts as fast as I can, so...
only to go on making a video as long as 30 minutes. I wonder how long the video would be if she weren't fast with spilling everything. Along with this video, Birdie also released a document in which she detailed her experience, presenting it as something that she believed needed to be made public, possibly in an effort to clarify her position and protect her reputation. Synni has been outed for a 14-year-old. She is currently 20 and about to turn 21. Before this video was uploaded, Birdie had been very close to Synnibear and had already made efforts to distance herself from the allegations that had been thrown at her by a victim.
I don't blindly support Synni just because we live together and I don't know the extent of her actions. And I said I didn't know the extent of her actions.
But why was Birdie staying at Synnibear's place? The story goes back much further, but one of the reasons Birdie decided to stay with her was largely due to her disability.
I was on SSI, Social Security benefits, because I'm too disabled to work.
Birdie also claimed that before moving in with Synnibear, she had nowhere else to go and no stable place to stay.
Even if Synni did something like really evil, like explicitly evil, I still would have moved in with her at that time because nobody else would take me.
With that, she went on to beg her viewers for financial support, asking for donations to help her secure her own place and move out of Synnibear's home as soon as possible.
Any amount of money is appreciated. Like I said, I'm flat broke right now. $0 in my bank account. I checked earlier. $0.
The description of her GoFundMe page was directed at Synnibear and included a plea for help to cover basic living needs, presenting her situation as urgent and in need of immediate support. This worked effectively because there had already been a long-standing dislike for Synnibear, and someone coming forward to expose alleged behavior was widely received and supported. As a result, the GoFundMe campaign went on to raise more than $11,000, surpassing its original $10,000 target. But what proof did Birdie actually present in this video to build her case against Synnibear? According to her, a document had been compiled by someone named Ano, which laid out a series of accusations alleging that Synnibear had engaged in
Synni's victim compiled a comprehensive document in the description, detailing everything that Synni did with them.
Before we go into the document, on the same day this video was uploaded, Birdie exposed Synnibear for sending her a message on Discord, when Birdie accused her of f***ing her behind. This is what Synnibear's message was like. "I can't believe you're saying I saved you by touching your ass and your b***s. I always asked if it was okay and you said yes." Birdie used this as another reason to justify why she needed a new place and had to move out of Synnibear's home. She also admitted that she had, at some point, consented to the situation she was describing.
And I'm gonna be honest, I consented to this because I've never had an IRL friend before and I didn't know what kind of touching was and wasn't okay.
Despite that, Birdie claimed that Synnibear did not ask for permission for everything she did to her. She explained that while there were moments when she did give consent, she often went along with it because she was living in Synnibear's house and felt she had little choice.
I guess, like, this stuff is fine because I consented to it, but there's stuff that she did that I didn't consent to. Like, she would often me, like, in the or, like, on my and, like, make jokes about me and, like, I told her not to do this, and I said no multiple times.
But this was not even the strangest part of the situation. The more disturbing aspect came from what Birdie alleged about Synnibear's fetish, and the way she claimed she was pressured into participating in it. Another unusual and controversial detail disclosed by Birdie was Synnibear's alleged encounter involving artificial intelligence.
One time she wanted to find a character AI adjacent thing that let her with the AI, and her friends didn't give her anything, so she suggested asking her server.
Here's a post from her Discord channel in which she asked her followers about this, presenting the question openly to her audience. What's the site where the AI is? And it's important to keep in mind that this was a server where many of the members were minors, with ages ranging roughly between 11 and 17. Now imagine having these young individuals on her server while she is consistently making posts like this, content that could easily trigger certain reactions or responses from them. I've run out of juice, so instead of thinking about my parents dying when I'm older, I think I'll be sleep deprived. Also, Synnibear often seems to throw around the word horn at any opportunity she gets, using it frequently and at times appearing to do so casually or for her own amusement. But Eno's document painted an even harsher picture. The document published by Eno was extensive and deeply damaging to Synnibear's image. Birdie claimed that she did not fully understand what was going on between Synnibear and Eno at the time.
I assumed that Eno was an adult, but they're not. I took her word on everything because I trusted her with my life. She has continuously befriended fans of hers and then immediately delved into territory with almost all of them.
What Birdie discovered about Eno made her begin to reflect on her own situation. She started to recognize patterns within her own relationship with Synnibear, as things she had previously dismissed as simply strange or uncomfortable were now beginning to make more sense.
Now that I'm aware of the extent of her behavior, I've been able to reframe a lot of her actions with me, and I think some of the things she did kind of bordered on with me.
Birdie has had her own fair share of controversies in the past, and she's been open about them. She also stated that she is mature enough to admit to having been hypersexual. Synnibear believes that her hypersexuality may have led her to do things she now considers extreme or out of character in the past. But this is not an excuse to prey on vulnerable individuals. This perspective can also be seen reflected in what Birdie had to say about their situation.
It's a result of our SA trauma, and hypersexuality is a trauma response.
This aligns closely with what I found after looking into it myself. According to the Balance Rehab Clinic, approximately 23% of survivors of exhibit symptoms of hypersexuality as a result of their traumatic experiences. Birdie, despite being placed in a similar position, or experiencing some of the same circumstances as Synnibear, claimed that she could not use her past or what happened to her as a child as an excuse to become as terrible as she believed Synnibear had become.
Not everybody experiences hypersexuality the same way, but me and Synny do. I have never done anything like what Synny has done.
In the same video, Birdie also included Eno's statement, adding her side of the story to provide further context and perspective.
I met Cynthia 6 months ago, but we only started to get close as of recently, because I made fan art for her. I've been a fan of her channel ever since I got into the animation meme community, so talking to her felt surreal.
Being young, around 14, and a fan when she first met Synnibear, it would have been easy for Synnibear to make a strong impression on her.
So when I started to form a bond with her, I started to see her as a big sister, or somebody I could look up to and tell things to.
Also, Birdie released a video confronting Synnibear directly after she discovered what she believed was Synnibear Eno, documenting her reaction, and the moment she chose to address it directly. Birdie told Synnibear that she did not support what she was doing to those kids, and made the decision to distance herself from Synnibear. This confrontation led to an emotional breakdown from Synnibear, as the situation became worse between them.
At this point, you're taking advantage of your fans, and you've taken advantage of me, and I'm gonna be honest, Synny, I don't want to live with you anymore.
Even though Synnibear tried to beg and claim that she had changed and was a different person now, Birdie stood her ground and did not allow herself to be swayed or manipulated by Synnibear's emotional pleas.
I don't want to anymore.
But you still did, and that's the issue. You can't undo this. Like, you have done this with so many people, and No.
As you might have guessed, Synnibear claimed that she did not fully understand why she had done those things, or what had come over her, and she repeatedly promised that she would turn over a new leaf moving forward.
You said out loud that you're being with a 14-year-old, and that was okay in your mind. When you said that out loud. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think that anymore.
Well, then why did you think that to begin with?
I don't know. It was some sort of desperation for something familiar.
Desperation?
This is just the context from Birdie's video, but the situation goes much deeper. Synnibear and Birdie have a complicated history together, and according to Birdie's document, they first met around 2020 in a friend group chat. Birdie claimed in the document that she had to leave the group after about 2 years, around 2022 or 2023, when she discovered that there were minors in the group and that jokes were being shared regularly. Birdie also included several screenshots in the document to show the kind of conversations that were typically taking place within the group chat. In this particular screenshot, we can see Synnibear misinterpreting a message sent by a 15-year-old at the time and attributing it to being too for her own good. It even gets worse. In another image shared in the document, we see Synnibear sending images of a person she claimed was presenting it in a way that could be interpreted as promoting or referencing pedophilia. Birdie also shared another screenshot showing Synnibear claiming that she would get whenever she listened to another creator's video while at work, and the people reacting to those comments in the thread appeared to be minors. It appears that some people in the group began criticizing her over her conduct, which then led to Synnibear responding by asking, "Bro, what am I supposed to do when I'm just sitting here?" And the person replying to her at the time was her then boyfriend while they were still together. She believed he was being clueless for not offering her a solution when she was in that state. What is most surprising is that most of Synnibear's Discord servers were labeled as 13+. Birdie claimed that she was the one who originally included this rule on the server when she was still a moderator in the group, and that the same rules have remained in place up to the present. There had also been other moderators who did not support the kind of 18+ games that were being planned within the channel, especially because the space included a younger audience. This is a 13+ server. It's been brought to me that some of you have been discussing a game, which will not be named, that's an 18+ fetish game. Please don't do that here. Also, the fourth rule in the server created by Synnibear appeared to be violated by her own actions. The fourth rule was stated as follows: no art or images under any circumstances. This server is 13+, and there are minors here. Despite this, Synnibear continued to send highly provocative and suggestive posts on the Discord server, even with those rules already in place. How about the moment when Synnibear announced on her page that she could not wait to start receiving commissions related to corn? This certainly is not the kind of content meant to be consumed by young kids. These are just a few examples taken from the document compiled by Birdie against Synnibear, and they represent only a portion of what was presented. Even when she was called out and urged to stop what she was doing, it did not seem to bring an end to her behavior. Synnibear even admitted to having minors present on her server at the time. My audience is full of minors. So in 2023, when Birdie left the group chat, it was largely because of what she described as inappropriate interactions with minors by Synnibear, particularly involving a kid whom Birdie referred to as Cinny noticed you left in sock gang and wondered why, so I confronted her about it. While they were discussing the entire situation involving O, Laurel disclosed to Birdie that O had sent inappropriate images of herself to Synnibear. Birdie claimed that O eventually stopped talking to Synnibear at some point, which was what ultimately ended their interaction. But before that happened, Synnibear had already begun communicating with this person in a different manner through her channel. This even led to Synnibear creating a doodle page that contained suggestive artwork depicting the two of them and then sending it directly to this person. According to the document published by Birdie, she claimed that O later confided in her about the entire situation involving the artwork with Synnibear. O told me they initially didn't know what Cinny was going to send them regarding the comics. They were both on call and Cinny was apparently being very vague and said she wanted to show them something weird. The issue with all of this, of course, is that at the time, Synnibear was almost 20, and she was engaging in explicit interactions with someone who was not yet of legal age. Synnibear also sent artwork that included elements associated with Sock.Clip's work, and Sock was only 17 at the time, as stated on her page. So there is no way Synnibear could claim that she did not know her age, especially given the information that was publicly available at the time. Also, Sock.Clips had OC characters, which stands for Original Content Characters, and she had clearly stated in her profile that no one should marry or ship his character. For those who may not know what shipping is, a ship refers to a romantic pairing between two or more characters, and is often a pairing that doesn't actively exist in the original story. So this essentially means that her character was not meant to be used in another animator's content without permission. But what did Synnibear do instead? She had been creating content that included her OC in her artwork for a long time, despite that clear boundary being stated. Sock eventually found out that Synnibear was using and shipping her content without her consent, and as a result, Sock chose to block Synnibear. Even after this, Birdie claimed that Synnibear continued to make content involving Sock's character, despite being blocked. Synnibear appeared to be aware that what she was doing was wrong, especially when you look at messages like this. I hope Sock doesn't hate me for over Witty, but Sock seems so sensitive, especially toward Witty stuff. After admitting to this somewhere around 2021, Synnibear went on to use another character from Sock's original set of characters, one known as Boy. Synnibear even posted it on her Twitter page with the caption, "Synni and Boy ship dynamic," continuing to do exactly what Sock had blocked her for in the first place. She later quoted that same post on her Twitter account, going on to express what she believed about the character and its sexuality as it had originally been depicted by Sock. So apart from shipping content that she was not supposed to ship, she was also knowingly violating the established sexuality of the character for her own purposes. It raises the question of whether Synnibear was deliberately trying to provoke or upset the original creator, something she later denied. "No, I'm not. I'm not trying to harass Sock. I was just posting something silly and cute. How is wanting to have with an Arrows character considered cute? Or perhaps Synnibear was trying to provoke a reaction from his fans, and a reaction's exactly what she got. I didn't realize Sock Clip was that uncomfortable with having their characters shipped, and if I had known I would have stopped sooner. I did not intentionally mean to break anyone's boundaries. I'm just someone who enjoys self-shipping with characters I adore." We all know this is not accurate, from the messages she shared on her channel to the fact that she was blocked, along with fans calling Synnibear out from the very beginning. Sock's page clearly stated don't ship, leaving little room for interpretation. How could someone claim to be a fan of his characters and admire them, yet overlook the disclaimer written on his front page? Even when people told her she should have stopped long ago, Synnibear maintained that Sock had never directly complained. "Sock has never spoken to me before, they've never asked me to stop, and I'm not the character like they said they don't like. These are just silly doodles of Boy being flirty." Well, being flirty can easily cross the line into being sexualized, especially depending on the context in which it is presented. From the way she tried to justify her actions, it seemed as though she viewed those behaviors as normal, or at least not as serious as others perceived them to be, which raises questions about her state of mind at the time. While Synnibear appears apologetic on one end, at the same time she also came across as an asshole in other moments, claiming that she did not even like Sock and that she was somehow being punished simply for being a fan. Synnibear appeared to position herself as the victim in this situation, accusing Sock and his fans of harassing her. She claimed that Sock had commented on her work, telling her to stop with the shipping of his content. And then Sock commented on my piece, "I'm so pissed off." So was Sock not supposed to comment and let her know that she was crossing the line? Synnibear even shared the comment from Sock as proof for her fans on Discord, but in a later message on the same platform, she claimed that Sock had unblocked her specifically to leave that comment on her page. Synnibear saw this as harassment, but most people viewed it as a creator trying to protect his intellectual property from being misused by someone they considered to be crossing boundaries. Some of her own fans even stepped in to give her candid advice on the situation. The characters are still theirs, and they have every right to ask you to stop if the content is making them feel any type of way, which Synnibear appeared to accept on the surface, acting as if she was fine with it, but likely felt frustrated that she would no longer be able to use the character again. And not long after that, we see this in another post she was planning to put out on the internet, but first shared it on her Discord page to get their opinion. "I'll just stick to drawing my own characters for now." For now. Was she suggesting that the stop was only temporary, something she would maintain until the backlash died down and people eventually moved on from what had happened? "IDK if I can draw fan art for a while, but I won't make any more ship art with your characters." This message sounds like that of someone who is not entirely comfortable with stopping what she's been called out for. Synnibear was quickly discouraged by her fans from posting something like that on her other platforms. Synnibear's birthday fell during this period. At one point, someone replied to Synnibear's apology message to Sock with NSFW artwork depicting her character and Sock's character in an intimate scene, and then went on to say, "I could design some characters for you if you want," and what happened next made things even more telling. Synnibear took a screenshot of it and shared it on her Discord server, almost as if it were some kind of trophy to her. And this is a clearer version of the artwork, with the explicit parts covered. Despite claiming that she would stop making Sock-related art, Synnibear later admitted to creating more of it just weeks after the controversy had passed in early 2023. "I'm gonna send Sock.clips DMs to Infamy RQ. I don't feel like it's a good idea to put them here." One of her fans suggested that she could continue posting the art as long as it was not in nature, but given Synnibear's previous behavior and the kind of fantasies she had expressed involving Sock's characters, many doubted that this would be possible. "I believe you could continue to draw them as long as you draw them appropriately." Synnibear was often supported by her fans whenever she wanted to make questionable decisions. In one instance, a fan even tried to console her by arguing that she was not the only person creating art based on Sock's characters. "I've seen a bunch of people self-ship OCS with Rose characters and no one gets as much backlash as right now." The obsession continued for weeks and even months within the Discord channel, with Synnibear constantly venting about not being able to post her Sock-related art art. Synnibear claimed that Sock probably hated her because of the way she had been treated. When she was asked why, Synnibear gave 2 reasons: for shipping her content and for allegedly hating her for no particular reason. Synnibear also openly admitted that she had started shipping Sock's content when she was just 16 years old, with Synnibear portraying Sock as the bad guy on her Discord, describing her as a bully and someone who personally hated her. Birdie took the initiative to reach out to Sock directly in order to confirm what had actually happened. She said that she was too afraid to put her foot down and tell Synny to stop drawing this sort of material of her characters. Laurel had this to say to Birdie during their conversation regarding Synnibear's shipping of Sock's content. "I knew she was making something with Boy, but I thought it would be fine if she kept it private." Fast forward to 2024. Synnibear posted another piece of art depicting herself in the kitchen, wearing only an apron. In the background, Sock's characters could be seen as well, included as part of the scene. She had essentially reduced them to toys, using them in her artwork just to keep them involved. Here's a closer look at the characters. If we rewind back to 2023 and move away from the situation involving Sock's characters, we begin to see that O was a frustrated individual who seemed determined to bring Synnibear down at all costs. It was during this period that O uploaded private pictures that Synnibear had sent to him onto the internet, and in response, Synnibear had this to say in the comments: "I want to remind you that I have access to our DMs too, and I can prove you actively engaged in and encouraged conversations we had. Too bad you cropped the part of your screenshots where you're being in response to me." Apart from the fact that Synnibear was upset about the leak of her private images and messages, she was also angry that O appeared to be trying to present herself in a more favorable light while portraying Synnibear in a negative way to her audience. Anna was introduced to Synnibear through Sophia, who was described as one of the figures in Synnibear's personal circle. Eno claimed that this was the first time she had interacted with Synnibear one-on-one. The background to this was that, in late 2023, Synnibear03 became entangled in controversy after sharing highly explicit artwork with a then 17-year-old artist named Bugsprexy. Bugsprexy later went on to make some of those private drawings public. At 19 years old, Synnibear had grown close to the younger creator, sharing personal and event art as part of their chat. When Bugsprexy later made some of this private artwork public, Synny viewed it as a painful betrayal of trust. This was when ENO reached out to Synny on behalf of their friend Sophia to console her about the controversy. Guess what Synnibear did after ENO's message? Well, the right thing. Also off topic, but important, how old are you? Anna responded that she was just 14 at the time, and believed that Synnibear might not want to interact with her because she was underage, a belief that would later prove to be a serious misjudgment of the situation. And from that point onward, the two began interacting more frequently, moving from long conversations through text to spending hours on calls, even after it was clearly known that Eno was just 14. Eno saw Synnibear as someone to look up to, someone she admired and felt close to, and this appeared to be something Synnibear took advantage of. This can be seen in the way Eno referred to her as a big sis. The conversation between them continued over time until it gradually began to take on a tone that was far too mature for someone as young as Eno. Synnibear even went on to tell Eno that she would allow the boy character from Sock to her. "He's so big he could easily me and I'd let him." Even more disturbing exchanges were included in the document, including one instance where Synnibear sent highly explicit and aggressive messages. Synnibear also shared images depicting Sock's character alongside her own in highly troubling scenarios. While there are moments where Eno appears to respond positively to the artwork being sent to her, as seen in this instance, it is also important to note that she was the younger person in this situation, and the responsibility ultimately falls on the adult to act appropriately. This is one of the reasons Synnibear was called out. Another detail that stands out in these artworks is the repeated focus on Boy's backside. If you remember from earlier, Birdie complained about this as well, stating that Synnibear would often her in ways she was not comfortable with. This pattern makes Synnibear's artwork feel like a reflection of her mindset and the kind of behavior she was capable of. Also, forceful acts like this. Synnibear has also gone into conversation about The document included numerous disturbing images, many of which were described as strange enough to leave anyone who viewed them feeling uncomfortable with Synnibear's actions. Synnibear has often claimed that she intends to turn over a new leaf, but there is still no clear way to know what she might do in the future.